All right, we're back. We are back with the second section of the second part of the Information Retrieval Lab for ISLT 9412. Um, and we are about to jump into the process of creating and structuring and configuring and what have you your first queries in a relational database using Microsoft Access. The first thing that you need to do to actually carry this out is to create a database file or a duplicate database file of the group database file that we all created as a group earlier. We need enough records to play with. Just using everything you did individually really isn't going to be enough for you to get a good feel for how queries can be structured and how they can actually return and manipulate information within a database. So what you need to do is open up Dropbox and copy this file. So taking a different approach than I took last time, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. This time I'm using the local client for Dropbox. If I open up Teaching and Information Retrieval and the IR Lab, I've already saved Truman Tiger's file, task 5, but what you would do, and this is the IR Lab folder, you're going to take the file out here, create a copy of it, and move it to your folder. Now, an important thing is do not delete the original file, because if you delete the original access file, then the rest of the class can't use it. So make sure that it's still there. When you copy the duplicate version to your local folder, save this file as task 5 plus your name. So task 5 plus Truman Tiger. That would be how Truman Tiger saves his access file. So once you do that, we're ready to jump in. So the first thing you need to do is to return a title and creator using the select command. How do you do that? Well, I don't have the same database that you guys have because you haven't created it yet, so I had to use this dummy data set that I found from Microsoft it's called Garden Company. And hypothetically, this data should work just the same, and I'll just follow you through the process to kind of give you an idea of the exact same things that you'll do if you're trying to return all the titles and all the creators from our database with Dublin Core metadata. So to create a simple query that returns title and creator data using the select command, we're going to do something a little different. We're just going to focus on the title and the creator equivalent, which I'm just going to say, that's close enough to first and last name, right? So what you do is go to Create, Query Design. So we're going to design a query. Make sure the Select tab or Select button is picked, and we're going to pick the table here. Now if you look over here on the left, there are lots of different tables, probably just one in yours. You can have multiple tables within a relational database. Access allows for this. However, pick the right one, and all we need is customers for this case. So I do this, and it opens up with this Query 1 tab here at the top. So what I'm going to do is for my field, first name, last name, you'll see how it has customers here. It's going to be from this field. I click Run. There you go. It returns all the people with the first name and all the people with the last name within the database. Has them all matched up by exactly who they are, first name with appropriate last name, and there you go. Next, right click, save, enter in the query name, and then what will happen is it will show up over here. Now, something that's actually really neat that you can do is you can right click on SQL View and it'll actually give you the SQL code if you ever want to play around with that. We don't need to do it, but in this case that's a neat way for you to actually kind of go through. Design View just brings you back to here, and it saves these queries. I don't think I've mentioned this yet. It saves them over here on the left hand side, so like if you want to run this query all the time in the future, you can do it whenever new metadata has been entered into your field or into your database. Alright, so let's move to the next one. We've created a basic query for titles and all creators with the select query. Let's do one that just returns books. Now, again, the problem here is we don't have books in here, but we do have something that's similar. We have Canada and the USA. So what you're going to do, again, go to Create, Query Design, pick the table you want, and structure it accordingly. I've taken the liberty of doing this. I've got the equivalent of the select books command. If you go to design view, I picked country, customers, and then I just want to return all the people from the United States. In your case, it's going to be just all the records that are books. So I put criteria and entered in quotation marks and told it to only return the terms USA or the characters USA. So we got first name, last name to kind of give some context. Go up here, hit run again, returns all the people with USA, first name associated with them and last name. And if we go in, we got none of those Canadians in with us. So there we go. It's going to be the same process that you're going to be doing with books. You're going to try and save this as select book format. It's going to be another way. You got to make sure you include it in there for me to grade it, but that'll be another way you can just return books in the future. So what happens if you want to do more than just return plain text terms in quotation marks in that exact format? Let's say you want to return every country that ends in an INA. Well, again, I don't have that exact option within the data set that I have. You'll probably be able to do it, and I'm going to let you pick around to determine exactly how you want to do everything. But we can do that same logical process using truncation, and we can actually do it in the same data set, or at least the one I'm working on. So, again, create Query Design Wizard, pick your table, pick where you're looking, and in my case what I did earlier is I wanted to find every instance of a customer with a last name that starts with MI, and that's it. And then everything beyond that, it could be million, it could be Miller, it could be anything really. So what I did is first name and then last name, both under the customers table, and then like, quotation marks, MI, asterisks. And what this does is it basically tells the computer M and I is what it's matching for. Everything after that doesn't matter. It's in quotation marks. Select is again picked. Click run. We've got Ben Miller, Frank Miller, Scott Miller. If I was in there, it would say AJ Million, but I'm not. And there we go. It has everything we need to do. If you right click here again in the SQL view, it gives the information there. You'll save it, and that will give you the ability to return for items. Say you search in the description field or something like that within the SQL database, or not the SQL database, the Dublin Core database that you're working with all the bibliographic records. That's going to be a way for you to pick out very specific words, especially with large strings in like an abstract or a description. Okay, so the next option or next thing that you need to do is you need to delete or use the delete command to delete every book row. Well, how are we going to do this? Not going to be using the select command this time. We're going to be using something different. So this time, go to create again, query design, and instead of select or make table or append or any of that, we're going to click on delete. By clicking on delete, we're telling it to do something different, and let's delete all the Canadians from our database. So country, from the table customers, where, quotation marks, Canada. I have already created this. Just ignore all of that. I went through everything earlier, but basically if you go to design view, that's what I was looking for, you'll see that I actually have the same thing in here. You'll just click run. If you right click on it on the SQL view, it has delete instead of select, and it's going to go through the same process. Now, part of the reason it was giving me all of those prompts and all of those things that were coming up is you can link different records to one another, and sometimes if that happens, you can't just delete things neatly within Access. We haven't really gotten into that, so don't worry about it. When you delete things, you shouldn't have any trouble. But that's the easiest way to kind of go about it, or the gist of it is to kind of follow the steps I did there. So, I guess all of that said, the only thing that you really need to do now is you need to go through and create your 5 queries, 2 of which cannot use select or delete. My best advice is to take advantage of the support we provide online, or not we, but Microsoft provides online at office.microsoft.com, and then there's a link here. If you go in, and there's a link up here at the top too as well, it provides all these different examples of query criteria. So if you want to return numbers and you have, here is greater than 25 or less than 50, and you see the and operator in between, this can be used. You can search between different dates. You can search for null fields, which means there's nothing there. You can, do all these different things within all these different parameters to kind of narrow what you're doing. Try and incorporate all of this. Make sure you look through it. I provided the link in the assignment description. And aside from select, of course, there are all the different options that you have too. So if you go create, you've got make table, append, update, crosstab, and delete. My best advice for this is to play around, explore, have fun with it. Some of the things that you're going to be doing aren't going to work. Some of the things are probably going to break your database. But you know what? That's how you learn. That's kind of the important component, I guess, of this assignment. And what I personally have found out is that the more I've played around with the actual commands, I've kind of learned the limitations of them and how you can string them back to back. So, for example, what happens if you have a select command plus a delete command plus an append command with all these different parameters? Well, hypothetically, you start out with very simple commands, and next thing you know, you could be doing all these really complex things that manipulate data in all these ways that are really, really useful. So, go ahead, do that. Save each of your queries, unique query 1, unique query 2, unique query 3. They'll be on the left hand side. Make sure you save them in your file, in your folder, and we'll go through and give you points for those. I feel like I've kind of gone through and given the basics of exactly how Access works and queries function within Access. I don't think I'm doing justice or doing as good a job as I probably could with this, because there are a bunch of different ways of doing it, and frankly I haven't used Access as much as I've used SQL and some of these other tools in the past. But I think the good thing is that it's pretty straightforward, so if you got any questions, let me know. Once you get all of this done, then we're going to get to the last part of the assignment, and it's a post-lab reflection. What I'd like you to do from here is just write a 750-word reflection essay outlining your experiences going through the assignment. Talk about how you constructed queries and Access, the process of normalizing data, collaborating with classmates, things like that, and of course applying previous lessons and concepts that you learned in the course readings. You're going to have to upload this to Blackboard, but that's a whole separate deal. So that is more or less it for now. This is just a quick and dirty overview of Microsoft Access, the information retrieval process within it. I started to touch on some of the other commands other than just purely retrieving data with the select command in Access. There are, of course, other commands like the insert command, the delete command, the create table command. All of these, which basically means that a database administrator can manipulate and edit data without ever actually having to use anything like inputting their data. We're not quite there yet, but I think you can see how it's possible. Best of luck with everything, and I will see you all on the message boards.